Picture this. You're at a dinner party, and someone casually mentions they've found a way to pay almost nothing in taxes. They're bragging about offshore accounts, cash payments, and creative deductions that would make an accountant's head spin. Everyone's listening with that mix of admiration and envy. But here's what they're not telling you about the real price of playing hide-and-seek with the tax man. What if I told you that avoiding taxes could end up costing you more than just paying them in the first place? And I'm not just talking about penalties and interest. I'm talking about hidden costs that can destroy your financial future, your relationships, and even your freedom. Today, we're diving deep into the dark side of tax avoidance that nobody wants to discuss. Let's start with something most people don't realize. There's a massive difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion, and understanding this distinction could save you from making a catastrophic mistake. Tax avoidance is completely legal. It's using legitimate strategies like retirement contributions, charitable deductions, and business expenses to reduce your tax burden. The government actually encourages this through the tax code itself. Tax evasion, on the other hand, is deliberately hiding income or inflating deductions to pay less than what you legally owe. This is where people get into serious trouble. But here's where it gets tricky. The line between aggressive tax planning and illegal evasion isn't always crystal clear, and that gray area is where dreams turn into nightmares. Consider the psychological toll first. When you're constantly worried about getting caught, it affects every aspect of your life. You can't sleep properly. Every phone call from an unknown number makes your heart race. You avoid certain conversations and become paranoid about your financial records. This chronic stress doesn't just impact your mental health, it can actually make you sick, physically. I've spoken with former tax evaders who describe living in constant fear for years. They couldn't enjoy their money because they were always looking over their shoulders. One person told me they stopped going on vacations because they were afraid of appearing too wealthy. Another said they couldn't even buy their kids nice things without worrying about raising red flags. What's the point of saving money on taxes if you can't live your life? Now, let's talk about the financial hammer that comes down when you get caught. The Internal Revenue Service doesn't just ask for the taxes you owe, plus a small penalty. They hit you with interest that compounds daily from the original due date. This means if you avoided paying $10,000 in taxes 5 years ago, you might now owe $30,000 or more when you factor in penalties and interest. But that's just the beginning. Legal fees for tax evasion cases routinely run into 6 figures. You'll need specialized tax attorneys, accountants, and potentially other experts to navigate the criminal justice system. These professionals don't work for free, and their rates reflect the specialized nature of tax law. Many people end up spending more on legal defense than they ever saved by avoiding taxes. Here's something that might shock you. When the government suspects tax evasion, they can freeze your assets while they investigate. This means your bank accounts, investment portfolios, and even your home could be off-limits to you for months or years. Imagine trying to pay your mortgage or feed your family when you can't access your own money. People have lost everything simply because they couldn't pay their bills while their assets were frozen during an investigation. The ripple effects on your career can be devastating. Many professions require clean criminal records. Doctors, lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, teachers, and countless other professionals can lose their licenses if convicted of tax crimes. Real estate agents, insurance brokers, and anyone handling other people's money face similar consequences. You could spend decades building a career only to lose it all because you tried to save a few $1,000s in taxes. Even if you avoid criminal charges, the civil penalties can be crushing. The IRS can impose penalties of up to 75% of the unpaid tax for fraud. So if you owe $50,000 in taxes, they could add another $37,500 in penalties alone. These aren't negotiable or dischargeable in bankruptcy. You'll be paying them until they're satisfied. Let's examine how this impacts your family and relationships. Financial stress is already one of the leading causes of divorce, but add the shame and legal troubles of tax evasion to the mix, and relationships crumble fast. Children suffer when parents face criminal charges or financial ruin. Families are forced to sell homes, change schools, and completely upend their lives. Your reputation in the community takes a hit, too. Tax evasion cases often become public record, and local news outlets love reporting on tax cheats. Your name gets associated with criminal activity, affecting not just you but your spouse and children as well. Professional networks dry up, social invitations stop coming, and the stigma can last for generations. The audit trail never goes away. Once you're on the IRS radar for suspicious activity, you become what they call a repeat examination candidate. This means higher chances of being audited in future years. Every tax return gets extra scrutiny, every deduction questioned more thoroughly. You essentially trade temporary tax savings for a lifetime of increased government attention. Technology makes hiding income increasingly difficult. Banks report cash transactions over $10,000. Credit card companies track spending patterns. Digital payment systems create permanent records. The IRS uses sophisticated software to match income reported by employers, banks, and investment companies against what individuals claim on their returns. Discrepancies trigger automatic flags that can lead to audits and investigations. International tax evasion faces even harsher penalties. The Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act requires foreign banks to report American account holders to the IRS. Failure to report foreign income can result in penalties equal to the entire account balance. Swiss bank secrecy laws that once protected tax evaders have largely crumbled under international pressure. Thinking you can hide money offshore is increasingly naive and dangerous. Consider the opportunity cost of the time and energy spent on elaborate tax avoidance schemes. Successful people should focus on growing their income and building wealth, not on complicated strategies to avoid paying their fair share. The mental bandwidth wasted on tax games could be better invested in business growth, skill development, or family relationships. Small business owners face unique risks when they play fast and loose with taxes. Paying employees under the table might seem like it saves money on payroll taxes, but it creates massive liability. Workers can file for unemployment benefits or workers' compensation, exposing the hidden employment relationship. One disgruntled employee reporting unreported income can trigger investigations that destroy businesses built over decades. The emotional toll extends beyond fear and stress. Many tax evaders report feeling guilty about not contributing their fair share to society. Roads, schools, hospitals, police, and fire departments all depend on tax revenue. When you avoid paying taxes while using these services, it creates internal conflict that affects your self-respect and relationships with others. Professional tax preparers who participate in questionable schemes face their own severe penalties. The IRS can ban them from preparing returns, impose hefty fines, and even pursue criminal charges. This means if you're working with a preparer who's willing to bend the rules, they might not be around to help when things go wrong. You could find yourself alone facing the consequences of strategies you didn't fully understand. Here's what smart people do instead of risking everything to avoid taxes. They maximize legitimate deductions and credits. They contribute to retirement accounts that reduce current taxable income while building future wealth. They time income and expenses strategically within legal bounds. They work with reputable tax professionals who know the difference between aggressive planning and illegal evasion. They also recognize that paying taxes is part of the cost of living in a civilized society. Yes, it hurts to write those checks, but it's infinitely better than facing criminal charges, financial ruin, and damaged relationships. The peace of mind that comes from knowing your taxes are filed honestly and completely is worth far more than any amount you might save through questionable schemes. The bottom line is this: the hidden costs of avoiding taxes almost always exceed the taxes themselves. Between penalties, interest, legal fees, lost income, damaged relationships, and destroyed reputations, tax evasion is one of the worst financial decisions you can make. The temporary savings simply aren't worth the permanent consequences. Smart money management includes paying your fair share of taxes and then focusing your energy on legitimate ways to build wealth and reduce your tax burden. Work with qualified professionals, stay on the right side of the law, and sleep peacefully, knowing you're not risking everything you've worked for just to save a few dollars on April 15th. If this video opened your eyes to the real costs of tax evasion, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe for more financial reality checks that could save you from costly mistakes. And remember that the best tax strategy is always an honest one.